Hi everyone and welcome back. On today's custom Thomas Wooden Railway model video, we are going to be taking a look at Molly, an updated Molly. In fact, she has a brand new face that came from her take-along merchandise. And in this video, I'm going to talk about all the steps that I had to take to accomplish this, and then we may do some comparisons to the normal Thomas Wooden Railway version in the back there. So for those who don't know, Molly was introduced in Season 9, and she appeared here and there. Of course, she had like her introduction episode, which is always a big deal, but then like a lot of characters from the era, she just kind of fades into obscurity, and it's rather unfortunate. I do feel bad for Molly on a personal note, especially, with the introduction of Rebecca a couple years ago. I feel like that would have been the perfect time to bring Molly back, and I'll talk about this a little bit later, but the one thing about Molly's Wooden Railway version is that it was never super accurate to what she looked like in the TV series. If you take a look at a picture of Molly, how she appeared in the episode, she has a much smaller face around her smoke box. And then her Wooden Railway version, she has like this big chunky face that kind of covers the entirety of her smoke box. And the rumor or the thinking there is that there was an alternate face mask that the production team used for Molly, which was used to form at least her Wooden Railway merchandise, probably even her Trackmaster merchandise. And so the face they ended up using in the TV series is not super similar to the face that ended up being used on her Wooden Railway model. So that's why Molly's Thomas Wooden Railway version has a face that covers the entirety of the smoke box, whereas if you were to look at an actual picture of her model from the TV series, that's not the case. I am not the first person who's done this custom. I know there are a couple people out there who have done this because it's just a really easy face swap. But the one that comes to mind is the custom that Enterprising Engine 93 did, and I actually got to see his custom in person a couple years ago. I've been to his house a couple of times, and I've helped him film a few things, and we were actually filming with Molly, and so I got to see it up close. And gosh, this was back in like 2018, so this has kind of been brewing in my mind for a couple years now. And this is a custom that I always wanted to do, but it requires a few things. One, if you don't want to tear up like your normal Molly back here, you need to find a replacement Molly. And so that is a bit of a challenge because Molly tends to be a rare character. She can fetch somewhat high prices on aftermarket sites such as eBay. I think for this Molly right here, I probably paid between $25 and $30. Which isn't too bad, especially looking at the price of other, Thomas Wooden Railway models that are out there. So while Molly was made for several years, I think she was made from, Season 9 was like 2005, 2006. So she had a Thomas Wooden Railway model from about that era all the way up until Mattel's introduction into Thomas Wooden Railway. So she had a Thomas Wooden Railway version from 2006 to like 2012 or so. But again, she wasn't the most popular character. She kind of fades into the background and into obscurity with like Neville and Dennis and not so much Rosie, because Rosie has continued to appear, but you guys get what I'm saying. So in order to accomplish this face swap here, you obviously need an extra Molly model, which I have right here, but then you also need a take-along or take-and-play version to get the face from. Now, full disclosure, I ended up beating up this is a take-along version right here, and I ended up beating it up pretty good, and that wasn't the case, or that wasn't my intention, obviously, but I know people will get mad anyway. So I bought this take-along Molly, which is dated 2006 underneath. It actually came with a tender, even though that's something I didn't need for this custom, but I thought I would still show it off. And when I was looking for this on eBay, I was just looking for the one that was in the best condition. This one did have a few scratches and scrapes, as you can see along the side here, but the most important part is that the face was in pristine condition, because that's really all that matters. So the good news is that this take-along model was really well built. The bad news is that when it comes to, trying to take it apart and use it for pieces, for example, it proved to be a very, very big challenge. And so on several of these models that I've used in the past for swaps or something like that, usually if you just kind of drill into the bottom, or if like you drill into the smoke box here, this part is usually plastic on older models, so I haven't ever really had like a major issue. Unfortunately, like I said, Molly is made just so well, and it's die-cast metal, that drilling into this and, you know, trying to break it up into smaller pieces turned out to be quite a hassle. And so I ended up doing far more damage to this model than I really wanted to. I ended up, you know, I was originally going to try to saw through the smoke box here. You can kind of see that silver part right there. I was originally going to try to take a saw and just cut through the smoke box, and then the face would pop up, which has worked with success in the past. But then this smoke box is actually metal, and I think that's something they changed maybe in a few years later with the introduction of take and play. The smoke box on a lot of engines that I've seen is plastic, just to reduce weight and cost. So then I turned underneath, and there were like these couple of screws that I was trying to undo, and I eventually got a drill to press all the way through. But it honestly, it was pretty ugly. It wasn't the prettiest thing. And then right as I'm about to give up, I noticed that this piece right here slides up, and I really can't tell you if that's how it's supposed to be or if I did something while I was drilling to loosen something, but the whole smoke box just pops right off just like this. And this piece right here, this is what I was actually trying to drill into in the back, or excuse me, underneath, so you can see all the damage that I did. But then there was just like a screw on the back here, and you unscrew it and the face pops off. And so, yeah, this wasn't my proudest moment. I wish I hadn't done all this damage to this take-along Molly. But, you know, when I am doing customs, I always know that this is a possibility, and I know all the take-along people out there are so sad that I tore up a take-along Molly, but, I mean, there's plenty on eBay, and there are actually a couple of different versions, let me talk about. So the face that you see on Molly right here, from what I understand, is the first run. It has a very simple smiling face. I would say it's like a gentle face. There is at least another face that I think was introduced around the take and play era, which was like 2008, 2009 or so. And I did consider using that face, but ultimately I just preferred the look of the first face. Now, there isn't a whole lot of information out there that I've been able to find about like the details about, you know, the different versions and how the range changed from take along to take and play. So there actually might even be like a third version of Molly's face out there, but I'm just threw up some pictures of the two faces I looked at, and both of them were really good, but honestly I just preferred the first version. So when looking for a take along Molly on eBay to use for this project, I just had to look at the pictures really close and make sure that it was the face that I wanted, and that I didn't just go out and buy a take along Molly just because it had a low price and it was in good condition. So the only change that I had to do on the side, or on the Wooden Railway version, is after I cut the face off of the take-along version, I had to file it down a little bit because there were some clips set in the back, and then I had to come along and cut the Wooden Railway face off, which I did with a decent amount of success. If you look really closely, you can kind of see I got a little bit of the smoke box. That wasn't my intention. My intention was to try to cut that very, very thin line between where the plastic face is and where the smoke box is. And, you know, I didn't get 100% right, but overall I think it looks really good. And then what I ended up doing is just taking some silly putty, sticking it on the back of the face, and then I just kind of pressed it in as far as it would go, and there we go. So I am really happy with this custom. Before I move on, I do want to show off Molly's old face right here, because this actually survived intact, which I was pleasantly surprised about. I wasn't expecting this. I was expecting this to unfortunately be the casualty of this custom making process, but it actually turned out pretty all right. And this is one of those faces that it's like you look at and you're like, yeah, like we kind of know it's Molly, but you could stick this on a custom engine and you really wouldn't have any idea who it is. I just got done doing Coldy Fell customs, and honestly this face kind of appeals to me. Even though it's technically meant to be like a female face, it's like, you know what, it could work for both genders. So I'm trying to, just for fun, put this face over the old smoke box just so you guys can see how big it is. I mean, look at that. This looks like, I don't know why it's not staying. There we go. It's kind of crooked, but you can see it covers the entirety of the smoke box and more. It is just a really, really big face. And this is obviously, like I said, based on sort of like a prototype face or like a screen face that they ended up not using in like final production or something like that. So, like, I understand probably, you know, when Hit Entertainment was filming the series, they sent a picture of the face to Learning Curve at the time, and they're like, hey, we have this new engine in the works, get cracking on a Wooden Railway model. And then by the time it's all said and done, it doesn't look the same. I don't really know of a similar case where the face differs from an engine that greatly. Off the top of my head, I'm sure some people can throw some examples in the comments. And I wouldn't really call it a mistake because I'm guessing the face you see in the background there was meant to be Molly's original face, but then I don't know, maybe they're getting ready to film and they're like, you know, this face doesn't, you know, look as good as we thought, or maybe we kind of have like this other face here, maybe we can try to use that instead. So like I said, this custom was super simple. It was just a face swap, but it ended up being a little bit more challenging because getting the face off of Take Along Molly here was just, it was much harder than I was anticipating. Normally I'm able to just come in and the face pops right off, but I had to do like some serious surgical work here. And honestly, you know, this part didn't turn out great, but I think the finished product looks pretty good. So in terms of using this version of Molly in my series, that is the plan. I kind of alluded to that in my season 18 update video I posted a couple weeks ago. I'm like 95% sure I'm going to use this new Molly, but looking at the two Mollys side by side, I really do kind of have this love for the version on the left here. And I think I'm just so used to that, and Molly has been in my series for a number of years. She wasn't one of my original characters. But that is the version of Molly that I've used ever since I introduced her into my series, which I think was around season 7 or so, which would be about 2009. And so it is kind of one of those things that it's like, yeah, I do believe this face is objectively better, but I am still kind of partial to that original face, even if it isn't as accurate. So I didn't really think I'd expect to feel that way until I set these engines up side by side, and I'm like, yeah, I know this is what Molly looks like in the TV series, but I still really like that original face. But I'm like 95% sure the next time Molly appears in my series, she is going to look like she does on the right. I mentioned earlier in the video that I felt a little sorry for Molly, and that still is the case. When I think about the introduction with Rebecca in recent years, how she is a long, yellow, tender engine, it just makes me think back to the missed opportunity there and how Rebecca really was just, you know, a marketing device to try to get young fans interested in the series again. It's like, oh, like if we just introduce like this big yellow engine, it will capture people's attentions. Whereas if they were really concerned about, you know, the Thomas and Friends series and trying to do it justice and not just trying to introduce a new character just for the sake of introducing a new character, that would have been a great opportunity to bring Molly back, because she is a large yellow tender engine. And so it just kind of baffles me that we have like these two identical looking characters almost, and one was just kind of shoehorned into the series just because. Whereas if they were really concerned about the series and everything like that, they could have definitely brought back Molly, and I think it definitely would have made a lot of classic fans happy, and honestly kids wouldn't know the difference because Molly hasn't been seen in the series in years, and they could have just treated her as a new character because she had such a limited appearance to begin with. So anyway, I'm going to stop rambling now, and that is the final look on my custom Molly. And I want to give a big thanks to Enterprising Engine 93 and all the other custom makers out there who have done this modification in the past, because I've been looking at it for a long time, and it really was just trying to get all the pieces and parts together in order to make this custom happen. Of course, I didn't want to tear up my original Molly. So having to go out and find not only a you know, mint condition wooden railway Molly and then also a very good condition take along Molly was a bit of a challenge, and it's taken me a while. So that is going to wrap up this round of custom Thomas Wooden Railway model videos. I hope you guys enjoyed like this latest series with all the customs I showed off. Be sure to leave a comment below, and as always, thanks for watching, and I'll see you on a future video on my channel.